Alright, hello guys, and welcome to Ketogenic Dieting 101. I'm Nick with Nick Strength and Power, and this is going to be an educational video about the basics of ketogenic dieting and the two different styles of ketogenic dieting that there are. So the first slide here is going to be the basics of ketogenic dieting regardless of which style you choose. The basic idea is low carbs to no carbs. The general consensus is that you're going to want to have less than 50 grams of carbs daily to maintain a state of ketosis. Now the foods you're going to want to avoid, for those of you who don't know which foods have lots of carbs in them, it's going to be starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, crackers, chips, cereal, anything with grains, wheat, anything of that nature is going to be a high carb food, a very carb dense food that you need to stay away from. Now the foods you need to be focusing on are foods high in protein and fat. This is going to be meat, dairy, butter, cheese, oils, things of that nature. So the typical keto diet is going to be very low carbs, if not no carbs, and moderate to high protein and fats depending on which form of keto you do. And we're going to get into that in the following slides. So what is the state of ketosis? So when you deprive your body of carbs for a certain period of time, you're basically flipping a switch in your brain that says, okay, we're gonna go from burning carbs for fuel to burning fats for fuel. So when you deprive your body of carbs, you're basically flipping this switch and putting yourself into a state of ketosis. And maintaining ketosis requires that you keep eating those low carbs and keep eating high fat, so your body is accustomed to burning those fats for fuel. And eventually the goal is that you're taking in less fats than your body needs to burn, so your body takes away some of the fat from your body as well. So that's the idea of a ketogenic diet. So let's get on to the next slide here. So keto for bodybuilding. This is the style of ketosis that I personally follow. The goal of this style of dieting is to maintain and build muscle while losing body fat on the ketogenic style diet. So you're going to want to go high protein and low carb. That's the basic idea. You're going to want at least 60% of your macros for the day to come from protein. Probably about 35 to 40% is going to come from fat. And the goal is going to be to have less than 5% coming from carbs. Now, regardless of whether you're doing this for bodybuilding or just weight loss, you're still going to want your carbs to be less than 5%, probably much less. A lot of people say 50 is the maximum, but ideally, you're going to want your carbs to be under 30, probably around 25 grams of carbs a day to get the full effect from your ketogenic style diet. So for a bodybuilding diet, you're going to be eating mostly meats, steaks, chicken, bacon, pork, and a lot of these meats listed are already high in fat, so you don't need to add much fat to them, like cheese, butter, vegetable oil, canola oil, macadamia oil. You don't really need to add too much of that, because the next style of dieting that I'm going to get to in a minute, that's where you're going to add in the fats because you want a very high fat diet. So the majority of your meals are going to be made up of the meat and not so much the additional fat. So you're just going to want to focus on getting the high protein in. And that's really the goal of keto for bodybuilding. So you're going to be looking at a 60, 35, 5% split protein, fat, carbs, macro ratio. So on the next slide here, we have the keto for weight loss style of ketogenic dieting. Now in this style of dieting, you're going to want to focus on high fats, moderate protein, and again, low to no carbs. Now for this style of dieting, you're going to want at least 75% of your macros to be coming from fats, 25 to 30% to be coming from protein, and again, less than 5% to be coming from carbs. Now it sounds like a lot of fats, but that's the goal. You want to be getting in a lot of fat on this style of weight loss, or on this style of ketogenic dieting, because the goal is purely to burn fat. You're not worried about maintaining muscle. You're not worried about building muscle. You just want to get that weight off. So you're going to want high fats, moderate proteins, and very, very low carbs. Now popular foods for this: bacon, very high in fat and has moderate protein; steak, very high in fat, also high in protein; beef, dairy products like yogurt, cheese, butter. You're going to have your oils like olive oil, macadamia oil, vegetable oil. These are going to be very high in fats. You can cook your meat with this and it will add a lot of fat to the meat. You can also eat nuts. You can also eat avocados. And again, the main goal for keto for weight loss is going to be fat burning. Now for both of these diets, you are still going to want to restrict your calories based on your body weight. The main thing that you're changing is the macros, but you don't want to eat an excessive amount of calories and think you're still going to lose weight. The goal is still to be on a restrictive style of diet and not just eat whatever you want. So if you eat 70 to 75% grams of fat in your macros, but you're eating 5,000 calories a day, obviously you're going to gain weight because you're eating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grams of fat on that high of a calorie diet. So you're probably going to want to restrict your calories down to whatever, an app like MyFitnessPal or another app that analyzes your body mass index and your body composition. It's going to tell you a more accurate reading of where your calories need to be for weight loss. You're going to want to take that calorie reading and apply these macro percentages to that calorie reading. So you are going to be worried about calories, but that's very different from person to person. But these macro percentages can pretty much be applied to any person, and they're going to see some type of results from restricting carbs this much. So the final slide here is tips and tricks. So some things that I utilize in my ketogenic dieting is sodium. So sodium is salt, obviously. So salts and seasonings. If you want to put that on your meat, that's more than fine. Don't be afraid of the salt and seasonings. You season that meat up all you want. Dietary fiber. So you can eat vegetables. Vegetables, if you read the label, they're going to have carbs in them, but a lot of that carb content is coming from dietary fiber. So dietary fiber, you can basically subtract from your net carbs for the day because you're basically just going to digest that fiber and essentially poop it out. So that fiber does not count towards your net carb total. So for example, you're going to have Quest bars. Now, Quest bars advertise themselves as being the lowest carb bar available. But if you read the back of the label, it'll say they still have 20, 25 grams of carbs. But if you keep reading the label, it'll say beneath that 18 to 20 grams of that is coming from fiber. So you can subtract 18 to 20 grams from that 20 to 25 grams, and you're left with like 2 to 4 grams of carbs or whatever, and that's what a Quest bar has in it. The same is going to be true for foods like avocados and spinach. They have a high fiber content. So even though there might be a somewhat high carb reading on the label, if you look at that fiber content, you can subtract that from your net carbs. So don't be afraid of dietary fiber with your vegetables. You can eat vegetables and still not have a crazy carb total. So another tip is don't be afraid of the fats. So butter, cheese, bacon, things you normally wouldn't assume would be safe to eat on a diet, they are safe to eat on a keto diet as long as you are keeping those carbs low. You're going to be in fat burning mode, so it's okay to eat butter, cheese, and bacon. Now, it's important to have a cheat meal, but not too often. I recommend having a cheat meal once every 10 days or no more. And that means 10 days of strict keto, no bullshitting, and then on the 11th day, you have a cheat meal where you refeed your body and eat a lot of carbs and you kind of hit that reset button so the next week you don't plateau and you have some room to grow. So a lot of people seem to hit plateaus with keto diets. Once you've been doing it for so long, you stop losing weight. So a good idea is to do a refeed, carb backloading. Do a day where you eat carbs, only after your workout, something like that, and you kind of hit that reset button for the next week or your next 10-day cycle of keto dieting. So that's kind of how I do it. I do 10-day cycles of keto, just 10 days of super strict keto, then I do a nice big cheat meal, then I start over again. And usually week after week, I slowly go down and down and down in weight regardless of those cheat meals. So those are my tips and tricks. And that was the keto diet explained, both methods. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something.